Angels That Kill is an adventure noir game developed and published by Rising Sun Interactive. This game is essentially a glorified walking simulator, but compared to other ones, it's very disappointing and boring. In the game, you play as two different characters. One is an ex-boxer, is down on his luck and is having a tough life, and the other one is a detective who has to discover who is the killer of a murder that's just happened in town. And that's everything I can say without spoiling the rest of the plot, because this game is very short. It took me more or less 70 minutes, including the tutorial, to complete it, and that's very disappointing, first of all. And also, the story was not very interesting. It felt way too much derivative of other plots, and it's ultimately boring, and those characters don't talk. There isn't a single character that talks, everything is just written. And if you like reading, that's fine, but to me, it wasn't all that fun, and there are some other problems related to the sound that we'll talk about later, but still the story wasn't all that fun, it wasn't interesting enough, and even though there are multiple endings, which is something that I really do appreciate in this game, it still felt a bit flat and a bit rushed. And maybe some can say that's because you will see more if you play the game multiple times, but in the end it's a very simple plot made relatively convoluted. The game uses the Unity engine, and how does it look? Well, not good. It does adopt an art style that I appreciate. It uses mostly white, grey and black to identify certain buildings, certain people, and the blood is made red, like in Sin City for example. But other than that, the game was incredibly boring to just watch. Even right now that you're watching it with me, it's boring, it's not pleasing to the eye, it's actually the opposite. In the long run, when I played the game the first time, just in one sitting, it started hurting my eyes because it's not fun. And it's just way too much grey, way too much black, and way too much white. And the city is gigantic, and it doesn't need to be. This could have just easily been a straightforward linear adventure, but by making it an open world with nothing to see and nothing to do other than a couple of choices that you make during the story, it wasn't all that great. It was actually very bad. Probably one of the worst cities in a video game I've ever explored, because there is nothing. There are barely any people in it. There are probably 6 or 7 places that you can enter, and that's it. That's literally everything you do and everything you will see, and it's not fun. It's really not fun. Now the gameplay, as I've already said, this is a walking simulator. You have to go from one place to the other. Maybe you can look at a couple of items, maybe you can talk to a couple of people, but other than that, you don't do anything. In a couple of sections you have to evade the police, which basically means if you see a cop car coming straight at you, go in a side road, it will go past you, then you can keep walking and walking. And sometimes it's made even more frustrating and boring, because as you will see later in the sound, there is no sound, and sometimes you have a character on one side of the map and he says, well, done my job here, I gotta get back to the police station. And it's on the other side of the world. And how do you know that? Well, because you have a map, but only one of those characters has the map, the other one doesn't have it, and it's incredibly tedious to look at it. You don't know where you are, and not even all the places that you have to go to are written on the map. So that basically means that you will try to explore, trying to find these places randomly. They've added some birds in the sky to tell you where to go, but they're just on the location. There isn't like a flock of birds just flying to the location. No, they're just standing in the sky on the location, and that doesn't really help all that much. And ultimately, I was not enjoying myself while playing this game. It's actually quite the opposite, The only real challenge comes from choosing what to do in the game, if you can call it a challenge, and also by simply trying to evade the police in 2 or 3 sections of the game while playing as one character. Other than that, there is barely any challenge, barely any frustration to be had other than just going around the city. And well, it's a walking simulator, so what did you expect? On one end you have a soundtrack, a Noir soundtrack that I usually really love, and here it was mediocre at best, not really all that fun, and they don't use it almost at all. They use it on a couple of radios, and in the ending credits sometimes it's in the background, just really repetitive music, and other than that you have no sound effects. I think there are just a couple of instances in when there are sound effects, including police sirens when you're caught, a couple of stabbing sounds, and that's it. There is also no voice acting, and right now you will hear a cutscene of the game. There might be some spoilers, but still you will see and hear how the game is. Enjoy! Yeah, not all that great. No. The replayability is easily the best aspect of the game, because there are a total of, I think, 6 or 7 endings plus an extra chapter in the story, and that was really good. I mean, I do enjoy the possibility to play the game multiple times, trying to have different outcomes in the story, but in the end it's just not all that fun. And while I do really like the amount of endings that you have and how different they are from each other, it's still not all that fun, unfortunately, and it does bring the game down a lot. So overall, Angels That Kill is a walking simulator that's just not interesting to play, not very fun. The story, to me, it wasn't particularly interesting. The lack of sound effects and music does make the experience more tedious than enjoyable, and the lack of a challenge and lack of basically gameplay doesn't make this a really recommended game. But it's not a bad game by any standards, it's just not fun, and that's probably one of the biggest sins in gaming. So maybe you might enjoy it if you are one of those ultra gigantic fans of walking simulators, because myself, I'm not really liking it, I'm sorry. But still guys, thanks for watching, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.